Okay, so we are discussing this from overall subject perspective, so that we know what is the keywords that is to be used and so on and so forth. Okay, so we started describing what is data science. Okay, what is critical thinking or statistical thinking. Then we talked about three major things: data, datum, and the data set. Okay, how how do we define data, how do we define data set, and what is a datum. Okay, so and then we briefly discuss about there are two types of data sets. One is qualitative and another one is quantitative. Okay, and then we saw some examples of what is qualitative and quantitative data and where do we use it. And then we also said there are three scales of measurement. Okay, of data sets, measuring the data, we can call it like that. So something called nominal, ordinal, interval and ratio scale, and we each one of it we saw what is nominal, what is ordinal, and interval, ratio data. Okay, and then we also said how this is useful in qualitative and quantitative research, and how we can relate this data set with the research type that we are aiming for. Okay, and then we also briefly discussed the entire statistics can be put in two ways. One is descriptive and another one is inferential statistics. Okay, so today also we will continue to see a little bit more about all this, what is descriptive and inferential statistics and so on. And then some elements of statistics we have seen: what is experimental unit, what is population variable, and then we saw some examples as well for all this. So we stopped with that. Okay, so today what I am going to discuss is how do we collect data. Okay, so this will be the first point of our discussion for today. Okay, so data can be collected from various sources. Okay, we all know this, but to be precise, or to put it in black and white, we have to discuss this clearly. Okay, so data, there may be more than this, but it can be divided on 5 terms. One is on published source, second one on designed experiments, where we collect the data is collected by the researcher. Survey, we conduct a survey, or we conduct an observation study and then generate the data set, or we do a simulation. Okay, published source, we know this very well. Okay, which can include books, journals, newspapers, websites, reports. Okay, any technical writing or report produced by a known agency in the field. Okay, all this falls under published data source, and in fact this is what we primarily depend on for all the academic exercise. Okay, at least at the master's level, we primarily depend on the published sources for doing it. Okay, since we don't have time for conducting real-time experiments, or sometimes we do have. For example, if you are doing in studio, you can conduct some experiments and then generate the data sets for further analysis. That's there. Otherwise, generally we in academics, we at least at the master's level or UG, and also in the master's level, we stick with in fact this is one of the primary component even at PhD and further research as well, but primarily at PG level we stop with published sources. Okay, not all the published source. I think you must be aware that there are good source of published information, and there are predatory source of information as well, where the published source are not of that worth. Okay, so we should have some fair idea about that as well. Maybe I will discuss if required later on what is a good source and what is not a right source. What are predatory journals or predatory works, and which work is considered to be worth reading. Okay, so this is one set of data that we can look for. The second one is designed experiments, where research experts have strict control over the units, where in a closed room environment or in a defined setting, okay, the research, the data collection will take place. Okay, for example, let us say we have a closed group people who will comment on certain design implications, or a group of people is subject to certain experiments. Okay, so it's more the researcher has control over the participants. Okay, so this is another way of collecting the data set. The well-known data set is collecting data set through survey. Okay, a group of people are surveyed and their responses are recorded in a pre-designed survey format. And there are so many survey techniques also. Okay, but we are not going into that detail as of now. These structured or unstructured response can also be one form of data set that we can start looking for, or we can collect and then interpret from there. Observation study is another way where we can collect the data. Okay, where specific units are observed in a natural setting and variables of interest are recorded. Okay, for example, let us say we are recording a temperature profile for a longer period of time. Okay, or we have kept a CC camera, not CC, I won't say CC camera, just a camera to record the activity over a period of time, or we are trying to map or measure sound levels over a period of time. Okay, so or it can be the other way of observation also. For example, you go to park and then you follow one person, okay, let's say, and then you follow him, you observe him, what he does, okay, what is his behavior, how he reacts to space, and so on and so forth. So it can be a social experiment as well. Okay, based on the observation, we collect the data and then we try to interpret the same. Okay, and then the last one is on simulation. Of course, there will be more than this data collection technique, but it will fall into any one of the broader theme that I have put it up here. Okay, simulation is the use of mathematical or physical model to reproduce conditions of a situation process. Okay, so this is one of the fascinating subject, and in fact I am also very much interested in this topic, where we try to recreate the real world in a virtual environment, and then we subject that virtual environment for various conditions, and we try to analyze what happens, okay, for different conditions and so on and so forth. Okay, so these are the 5 ways where we can adapt for collecting the data. Okay, how do we collect the data? Okay, that is another important factor that we should know. But this is all okay. Where do we look for data set? Okay, and these are the methods of looking at it. But there are other things that we should that will come into picture when we talk about data, is sampling. Okay, a sample should have the same characteristics. What is, okay, as a population it is representing. I think we have discussed this somewhere in the beginning also. We said there is a population and there is a specific response that we have recorded from this population. Okay, and what we do is we take the response of this sample, and then we say that based on this sample of, let's say, some 100 samples, we say that a population which is of 1000 is of XYZ nature. Okay, so we comment on the entire population based on the sample size that we take. Okay, so how do we select this sample, and what are the characteristics of those samples, so that we get a fair understanding and fair picture of the entire population as such. Okay, so this sampling can be done. There are two ways: with replacement or without replacement. What is that is, a member of population may be chosen more than once, okay, to answer, or it can be a random. Okay, only only once the respondent can give an answer. Other time, let's say if you are conducting the same experiment second time, the same person may not get will be given an opportunity to respond. Okay, so this is one very simple thing. What is the takeaway point from this is, this sample should be well thought of. Okay, because we have a population of 10,000 1,000 or 10,000 people, but we have to comment based on only 100 samples. Okay, so this 100 number of sample that we are taking, or the 100 sample that we are surveying, we should be careful in selecting this 100 number, so that we get a good representation of 1,000 or 10,000 people, entire population. That's a takeaway point from this topic. Okay, and then there are two ways of getting the sample. Okay, for example, let's say from we have 10,000 or 1,000 people and we want 100 sample. How do we select this? Okay, there are two ways, acceptable way of selecting the sample. One is called random sampling technique. Other ones are non-random samples. What is random and what is non-random, we will see. Okay, random sample, we know that by word itself, each member of population has an equal chance of being selected. Okay, so like I said, 10,000 is the population that we have talked. Okay, so if we run a random sampling number, then all 10,000 people have a fair chance of being selected, right? So a random sample of an experimental unit is a sample selected from a population in which in such a way that every different sample size of n has equal chance of selecting. Yeah, that's what. In simple words, all 10,000 people have a chance to get selected for responding to survey. Okay, whereas in non-random sampling technique, only a representative will be taken. Okay, a representative sample exhibits characteristics of typical of those possessed by population interest. Okay, I will explain little clearly, but this is a technical definition or word that I put so that we stick to the definition. Okay, but I'll explain you what is that. Okay. Suppose if we have same 10,000 population, okay, we can divide this in let us say, for example, gender, based on gender. Okay, male, female. Okay, now it is already the population is divided. Okay, and then we can take 50% of the sample from here and 50% of the sample from here. So we are getting into more systematic and representative based sampling. Okay, those are called non-random sampling techniques. Okay, so when we select samples, there are certain key things that we should keep in mind that will often come into picture is errors in the sampling. Okay, so sometimes we say that when you produce some results, we say that okay, 10,000 population, this is our result, XYZ is our result. Okay, but maybe the reviewer will say no, this sample size is too less, the sample taken is too less, and there are some errors in the data collection and so on and so forth. Okay, so that will also needs to be understood when we discuss about selecting samples and the error associated with the samples. Okay, so the actual process of sampling causes sample errors. Okay, it is actually a part and parcel of the survey. or the statistical approach. Okay, we will bound to we have errors. We should know that we have errors. Okay, so we should not forget it, or we should not neglect this aspect. I will tell you what are the possible errors that we will encounter, so that we can avoid those kind of errors when we conduct experiments or survey or any other simulations and so on and so forth. For example, sample may not be large enough to represent. Yeah, this is one of the common thing that will come into picture. I'll give you an example. I think last time also I must have told you this. During the parliamentary elections, okay, so post-poll results or pre-poll results they discuss, survey results they discuss, okay, and they say that our sample size is 5%, okay, so that means they survey throughout the country about 5% of the population, okay, and then they say that okay, the mood of the nation is with X party or Y party and so on and so forth, okay. So 5%, let us assume just for calculation, we have 100 crores, right, 100 crores population, and 5%, 5 crore population is taken for commenting on 100 crores, okay. So is this the right sample size to comment on 100 crores or not? That is what has been discussed here. Sometimes the sample size may be too less to compare or to make any judgment. Okay, I'll give you one simple what do you say, thumb rule you should remember. See, for any meaningful statistics, we should have minimum of 30 samples. Okay, you remember this magic number 30. Okay, so if any sample less than 30 is actually not acceptable for running a meaningful statistical analysis. Okay, so this number you remember, and when you do some experiments, and then if you say that I have a sample, then it should not be less than 30 for commenting. This is minimum, bare minimum. Okay, I'm not saying the best, I'm telling you the bare minimum number of samples that we require for running any statistical analysis. Okay, and then factors not related to sampling process may have sampling error. Okay, so this may be inaccurate use of templates. Okay, or for example, let's say the very attendance example. Okay, if I see the last number, it says MEPM 23. So I always say that okay, you have 23 candidates in your classroom. Okay, whereas there is some error in the listing, it is only 22. Okay, but these are not sampling error. These are other errors. Other errors that is also will have an issue. So this is a good example to explain other errors related to sampling. Defective counting device can also be error. Okay, for example, if you are measuring temperature, we have devices for measuring wind speed, or for example, even measuring the hot or cold surfaces. We have thermal imager, all that. Okay, so those devices also have some issues or errors. Okay, that needs to be calibrated. Probably you must have heard about a word called calibration. Okay, so whether the device is calibrated or not, that needs to be checked. Okay, so that the instrument is error free and we can use it for data collections and so on. Okay, so I told you there are two types of sampling. One is random sampling, another one is non-random sampling. Under there are other sub methods. We will see what are sub methods, and also briefly explained you about possible sampling errors that we may encounter. Okay, what are the types of random sampling techniques that we can think of? Okay, one is simple random sample, where it is a direct. Okay, each sample of the same size has an equal opportunity to get selected. That's what 10,000 people have. If you run random sampling technique, all 10,000 have the possibility of getting selected. Okay, this is one simple example for random sampling technique. Okay, so all the population has fair chance in getting selected for sampling. Okay, so how do we run this? Do we have any means? Actually, there is a published random number table as well. Okay, so where we can use this for coming out with specific numbers. Otherwise, what can we do is I'll quickly show Excel. Okay, let me open some Excel sheet. Is visible for you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
It is visible.
So, for example, there is a very simple formula where we can say random. Okay, if you just say random numbers. Okay, this is a formula for generating random numbers. It will generate some number. Okay, any number. Okay, there is no rule for this. It is a random number. Whenever you open this Excel file as well, you can change. You will see that the number may get changed. Okay, so even we did not do anything here, but still these numbers are getting changed. Okay, this is also a method, a way in which we can generate random numbers. This is very in fractions, and let's say if we are specific, let's say we have only 23 students, right? So random number between. Okay, now I want to select between any students between 23. Okay, so maybe 23rd is myself. Okay, 23 is what we have. Okay, I want to select someone from 1 to 23. Okay, and then I want to do some survey with them. Okay, so this is one random number that we are getting. Random between. Okay, this is the formula is random between. Let's say 10 to 100. Okay, and we are getting some numbers. Okay, so suppose I have 23. Okay, let me keep that 23 students, right? We are all of 23 in number, and I want let's say to represent, or let us say I want every one of us to speak for 5 minutes. Okay, and I want to give a random number so that everybody gets a turn for speaking. Okay, so what I can do, I can just run random in between. Okay, 1 to 23. Okay, so yeah, so we may get a fair chance of getting it. So sometimes if you see, we will also have repeated numbers, so those things we need to address. Yeah, so this is one simple way of getting the samples. How do we, for example, from 10,000 to coming with 100 numbers, how do we get there? Okay, so one simple method, statistical method available for us is using random numbers. Okay, this is one. Second thing is there's something called stratified sampling, random sampling technique. Okay, this is stratified random sampling technique. Okay, I was giving this example. Let's say we have different masters program, right? We have BARC, we have B-Plan, and we have masters various programs, and we have masters in planning in various programs as well. And we are conducting one experiments in this school, and we want to take Let us assume if we take 500, let us assume we have there are 500 students in the institute, and if we run random numbers, we don't know, okay, probably, and select, we run random numbers and select let's say 50, okay, respondents for some survey. There will be a possibility that all of it may be from this BIAC, or all of it may be from planning, or all of it may be from other sections, okay. This is a possibility, right, because this is a random number, we don't know what number we may get. So but that will not give a correct picture, okay. In this case there will not be correct representation of respondents from different disciplines or different backgrounds. So what do we do is, okay, we do a stratified random sampling. Okay, we want, okay, let us say we have 4 groups, we want 40 samples, but 10 in each. Okay, we'll take 10 samples in each of the group. Okay, this 10 can be a random number within this sample. Okay, so that we have all the representations, we have representations from all the types or groups, but still it is slightly okay, random within that subgroup. Otherwise it is a stratified random technique. Why? Because we are saying in the first place, okay, I want 10 samples from each group. So this is one another method, okay, it's called stratified sampling technique, random sampling technique. Divide the population into groups called strata and take a sample from each stratum. Okay, this is the kind of a text that we can understand from this. Yeah, so the second type is stratified random sample. Yes.
Sir, this is Rohini.
Yeah.
Sir, in the stratified sampling example, when you were talking about choosing 10 from each group,
Yeah.
so when we choose 10 people from each group, do we have some criteria for selecting, or is it just random?
How do we select this 10?
Yes, sir. Yes,
No,
sir.
that is random number. We will okay, I'll explain it further. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 groups, okay, and then we have, let's say, here in BR we have, let's say, some 200 students, okay, and then we have 50, or let's say this should be 100, right? Okay, anyway, some number, okay, there are some numbers like this, okay. Within this 200 I will run random sample to get 10, okay. So I'm dividing it. Okay, I'll give you another example, maybe this may help. Let's say we are taking we are conducting one experiment in a let's say in a park, okay, and I want to know what is the perception of people about this park. Okay, very simple question. What is the perception of people about the park they have visited? Okay, so let us assume I want to take a minimum of 50 samples. Okay, so if I know that in that park, okay, it is a closed room observation, we have some 200 people there at that point of time, and we know that, okay, just assuming that we know that somehow. And how do we select this 50 numbers from this 200? Okay, and if you see, we can generally select, okay, we can generally select some 50 numbers and then run random numbers, select 50 numbers, that's possible. But if you divide, okay, let's plot this 50 number and see. Okay, I will do some categorization here. Let us check what is the gender balance in 50. Okay, are we getting male respondents, are we getting female respondents or not? Okay, we may get both respondents, that's possible, but we may not get also. Okay, suppose if you don't get any one of the representation, okay, that may not be a correct output, or that may not be a correct perception output from the results. Are you getting it? Okay, so if all the respondents are male, or if all the respondents are female, so there may be some biased, or we are leaving out a perception of male or female counterparts. Okay, that can be one possibility. Or let us say we divide the population in three ways. Okay, children, okay, adults, and let's say old people. Okay, and if we divide this entire population, like entire 200 population into like this, and then we select, okay, I will select some 10 here, 20 or 30 here in the middle, and 20 in the old people category or aged people category. Then we have a fair representation of all age group, okay, commenting on whether this is okay or not, and so on and so forth. So we are being more pragmatic in defining the case. Okay, so we are being more rational in saying, though I'm conducting a survey, but it is not a very random survey. I know that there are children here, there are male participants here, female participants here, there are adults here, there are aged people here as well. So I want all of them to represent in my sample. So I'm adapting a sampling technique called stratified sampling technique. I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, sir. Yes. So the stratification in gender will be in two categories, and when we talk about the age group, so it was stratified into three categories. That is how we are doing the stratified sampling.
Yes, it is up to the researcher based on the question that he or she is asking. So it has to be done this way. Okay. Yes. Or I'll give another example. Let's say we want to know, we have to identify some contractor. Okay. The respondents has to be from the same field, right? Maybe from civil background, or maybe from the architecture background, or maybe from some consultant who can give some observation about the consultant. Okay, so if you do random sampling in fast general public, probably we may not get correct information that we are looking for. So depending on the question, depending on the context, the researcher has the upper role. He or she can decide, okay, how this can be done, how stratification can be done. Okay, for example, the same thing I'll ask you, I can explain you with other example. Let's say we are somebody is experimenting. What is the color of a classroom wall that needs to be painted? Okay, that may intrigue children for being more engaged in class. Okay, so in this way, the question itself is very straightforward, right? So it has to be, it is dealing with the children, and assume that we should make sure that children's representation is more in this survey. Okay, because they are the one who has to we are making this classroom more vibrant for children. Okay, so their input is required. So suppose if you have a school where you have an age between let's say 10 to 16 or so, and we are working on a classroom where the children of age between 7 and 10. Okay, so we know that the answer has to come from this 7 and 10 age group. Okay, so we can stratify our samples based on the requirements. It is up to the researchers to come out with, based on the question and the context, how do we do this stratification. Yeah. And the third method of random sampling is clustering. Okay, so clustering of sample. This is also another example for how do we do. The same example can be used for clustering. For example, here what we did, we have clustered them based on the type of course. Okay, BR, B plan, MArch, and M plan. This is clustering has been done, and then in each cluster we ran a sample and to get the data set. In cluster sample, the entire cluster will be selected for sampling. Okay, divide the population into strata and then randomly select one of the strata, some of the strata or all the members from the strata in the this is one good example. If we have if you're doing spatial, okay, we have different fabrics. Okay, let us assume this is the entire city and we have one neighborhood here and neighborhood here, and we want equal representation of all the neighborhoods in response. So in this case we can use a cluster sample as well, where the entire group, all the members in the each selected group are used for generating the samples. Okay, so this is also possible. Again, when do we do this? It depends on the question. For example, this children can be a good example. Okay, where we are actually clustering all the students of age between 7 and 10. We take all the clusters of 7 and 10 to respond. Okay, because we are working for them, so their input is required in this case. Okay, so that's cluster sampling. And then there is something called systematic random sampling. Okay, what is systematic random sampling is, this is actually used when we do census sometime. Okay, so for example, this is every odd number is taken, every even number is taken for survey. Okay, 1, 5, 7, 8, 9 is taken, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, those are taken, or every fifth or every fourth person is taken, every fourth house is selected for survey, so something like that. Okay, it is not random, it is a systematic random. Okay, so this is also acceptable in some kind of experiments. It all depends on the question that we ask. Okay, so it all depends on what is the intent of the question and what are we looking for from the question. Okay, so we can adapt general random, simple random sampling technique, or we can use stratified random technique, or we can use cluster random sampling technique, or we can use systematic random sampling technique as well. Okay, and there is something one more sampling within the random sampling is called the convenience sampling. Convenience sampling is actually what we adapt, I guess, in most of the time. We go to site and then we say that, sir, there were only 2 people available, so we took the survey of 2 people. In statistical terms, this is also acceptable, but sometimes it may give incorrect observations as well. Okay, so or in extreme cases, for example, let's say you are asking for now in this current COVID kind of situation, if you go and ask for survey, okay, people may reject. Okay, we want 100 samples, and if you go and knock the doors of 100, maybe 80 may say, no, we don't want anyone to come inside my house, I don't want to talk to strangers at the moment. Okay, that's the kind of situation we are now. Okay, and we are left with whoever volunteers to give survey, we can take survey from there. Okay, so that is also acceptable. That's called convenience sampling technique. That is also random, that's also one of the technique that we can adapt in this process. Okay, so these are some of the techniques available for selecting the sample. Okay, and broadly the data, okay, that's how data can be collected, okay, through sampling. And how do we represent it? There are two simple way of representing the data set. Okay, one is graphical method or it can be numerical numbers. So graphical representation, we look for overall pattern for striking to look for a deviation. Okay, in the, for example, let's say you plot let us say we are plotting temperature profile, indoor temperature profile of 100 rooms. Okay, and then if you see it's all something like this, and suddenly you have a large sample here, and then again it is coming down. Okay, there's some numbers that is going up here, so that will give an indication. Okay, there is a change in the setting, there is some change in the data set. That will give an indication that there's something that we need to understand what is happening here, whereas in most of the cases it is something like this. Okay, so that is also possible. And also, let us say we are measuring income. Let us say we are asking survey about how much you can afford for a house, for buying a property in this particular neighborhood. And an average, let's say the people are saying, okay, I can afford 30 lakhs, I can afford 40 lakhs, and so suddenly there's one person who says I can afford 120 lakhs. Okay, so whereas average is 20, somewhere here. Okay, so there will be one or two numbers that may go outside the normal range. Those numbers are actually called as outliers. Maybe we'll see that when we see the data, we'll be able to understand, okay, what are normal data sets and which are outliers. Okay, these outliers are also important for us to understand. Sometimes the data may be incorrect. Okay, so data may be incorrect, there will be some exaggeration or mistake in entry. Those things are also possible. So this also gives an indication of it will help in identifying the quality of data sets overall. Overall pattern of the data set is described by shape, center and spread. This is what we will discuss in the next session, or maybe today if possible, if we have time. I think we have time. So we will see how do we define data set in terms of spread and so on and so forth. Normally we use bar chart diagram, pie chart to show categorical variables. Histogram is shown there. I'll show you what is this histogram, what is box plotting, all that. We have seen this, but just to refresh our understanding on what are these things. Okay, representation. Okay, I think I'll quickly show you one approach or one technique that we can use. For example, let us say frequency is one statistical data representation technique that we can use. For example, this is one example. Consider a data set of 26 children of age between 1 to 6, and then the frequency distribution of variable age can be tabulated in the following manner. Okay, so age on one row, frequency on another row. Okay, children with with 1 year old 5, okay, with 2 year old 3, okay, with 3 year old 7, and so on and so forth. Okay, so this also gives this is called frequency table. Okay, suppose if you have 100 samples you have collected, and then if you do simple frequency table, it will give an idea, okay, whether we have correct representation of the data sets or not. Okay, so frequency distribution table will help in quickly understanding that will give a quick understanding of the data set that we have in hand, whether it is fair representation of the population or not. Okay, so in fact it can be grouped as well. This is as it is, okay, explicit frequency. This is grouped frequency, where let's say 1 to 2 year, 3 to 4 years, 5 to 6 years are categorized, and then the free number of children are entered into this category. And there's something called cumulative frequency also, where this is nothing but this is the first table, but it's all added. 5 plus 3, okay, 8 plus 7, okay. So this is 5 plus 3, okay, 8 plus 7, okay, 15 plus 5, 20 plus 4, okay. This also gives we use it for some aspect wherever we require, okay. So cumulative frequency table or frequency table itself will help in quickly looking at the data set to know whether the data set is fairly distributed or not. Okay, so I'll stop here. Okay, maybe we'll have some break and then we will discuss about descriptive statistics and inference statistics. Okay, little bit in detail.